respectful. Hi everyone. Best way for me to put it. Hey, thanks so much, Echidna, for allowing us the opportunity to go ahead and talk about this, right? And go, examine this, analyze this, talk about it, whatever it may be. Because I don't know if this is ever gonna get. I don't know how to put it. I don't know if this is ever gonna get like animated. Is that the word for it? So I just want to completely say, hey, I sincerely appreciate it. I think that this is absolutely phenomenal. And why don't we go to just jump into it? That's the best way to put it. Thanks so much, Echidna. Appreciate it. Let's go. I actually haven't seen this at all, man. Hold on, before we get into it, guys, in case you guys are wondering, hey, yeah, I'm a psychologist. I tend to go ahead and analyze video games, anime, the whole shebang. But when it comes to ReZero, I've literally gone in it blind, just like I've gone in it with all the other shows, completely chosen at random. ReZero was the first show that I started with off of recommendation. And the best thing that I can put it is I have a deep love and respect for ReZero. I think that its characters are well developed in many aspects, so I'm kind of curious as to like where this is gonna take us.
Throughout the story of ReZero, Subaru repeatedly faces ideological conflict that shapes him into the character he will eventually become. Many of these moments act as a test for Subaru where he must choose between the path of sin or the path of virtue. For example, in episode 18, when Subaru wanted to run away with Rem, he was being tempted by the path of sloth. Instead of facing the challenges presented before him, he was tempted to run away from them and leave all his problems behind. Luckily,
So, I'm. So are these actual stories? Hold on, yeah, because I need a breakdown of this. Like, for example, like if he chose this, he actually went into like an if story. Yeah. Also, because the way that I'm looking at it, like as a therapist, of course, I'm not even talking about this. This for me as like a therapist, when I'm looking at this, I'm not really looking at it like I'm sure that the author wrote it, and or if the author wrote it like the Vices or whatever wrote it in this direction. But my thing is like, as a therapist,
I don't look the challenges presented before.
I don't look at it like this. I look at it more like specifically, hey, is fight or flight, freezer fawn is activated. What do you do in a normal situation, right? And in a situation where you keep getting corralled in, how do you move past that? What does it mean for you to go through a certain scenario like that? And it's interesting that the vices are always highlighted in this regard. I don't know. Because since it's psychology, not necessarily psychology as more morality, right? Because psychology, like for example, psychology doesn't really matter in terms of vices, or like we don't delve into what it means for you to be like lustful, right? Or for you to fall into gluttony or greed or sloth. It's more like, why did you fall into greed? Why do you think you're slothful? What steps did you take to get there? As opposed to you are this, right? Because you're never truly like 100% one thing. And that's sort of the interesting like split or separation that happens there. Because oftentimes like individuals try and like throw it out there like you are a vice, you are whatever. The initial choice of a character normal to branch into one of these ifs goes against their character. That's the intentional inconsistency. However, everything that follows is consistent. Why do you use the term slothful to do? That's a narrative approach. Like for me, it's like, what makes you think that you're this? What drives you into this? Where did this come from? Where did you first hear this? Why? Right? Because my thing is, if you start questioning, for example, your root cause rather than like the words that you use, the root cause is often the, like, for example, your childhood traumas, your attachments. A lot of people hear this from culture and whatnot. Once you start questioning that, you're able to go and start changing a lot of other things. To be ironic. Sorry, I didn't get that. No, you're good, Eidolon. You're good.
For him, he was tempted to run away from them and leave all his problems behind.
I miss Rem.
Luckily, Subaru made the right choice in the end and instead chose the path of diligence. This story is packed with moments like this one where Subaru must choose between two paths, and thankfully he's made the right decision every time. However, every year on Subaru's birthday, the author releases a non-canonical story explaining what would have happened if Subaru made the wrong choice. This story is about Ayamatsu, or the Pride If story. Ayamatsu shows us what would have happened if Subaru chose pride over humility. This video does contain some Arc 5 spoilers, though I will give a warning in the video right before they pop up, so if
Guys, make sure you guys sub to Echidna. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this, the majority of you guys are. But also, let me get a drink, Echidna, if you're watching this, man. Because I feel like we're about to, like, you're about to deep dive, and then I'm about to deep dive. So let me quickly just grab a drink here. I'm like, I feel like you're about to deep dive, and I feel like I have to deep dive. So hold on. Let me make myself my special drink. But all right. It should be watermelon flavored. Yeah. Therapist happy juice. All right, let's go ahead and continue,
if you're
guys.
an anime only and you want to watch the video up until that point, you should be safe to do
Chat
so.
mods,
Before
remind me.
I start the summary though, let's talk about where exactly Subaru faces this ideological conflict of pride versus humility. This conflict in particular isn't actually limited to a specific moment, but more so an attitude Subaru has to overcome. When Subaru first arrives in Lagunica, he's visibly prideful. He immediately assumes he's the Kirito of his own anime, you know, the overpowered isekai MC everyone dreams of being.
I'm not sure if that is prideful, as that is more like cultural ignorance. Or just, yes, this is an if vid. But the reason why I'm breaking this down is like, yeah, the reason why I'm taking this down and breaking it down is because, like, at least for me as a therapy brain, right? Labeling people into specific categories, like, yeah, like giving people into labeling people into specific categories and whatnot, really, like, it already predetermines sort of where they're gonna be at. Like, this person is narcissistic, right? When instead of, like, they have narcissistic tendencies, but they're not like narcissism itself. Granted, some people can literally like pull us towards that, right? Pride isn't pride ignorance. It can be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are like pride itself, you know. And I think that's one thing where I'm like, I look at Subaru and I'm like, because of the medium that is anime, right? How many of you, if you guys were isekai, wouldn't do the exact same thing? I'll be honest, I would have, right? And this is not me making any excuses for Subaru. This is me just humanizing the aspect that is this specific moment. Like, i.e., I've been isekai to another world. Do I have magic? You know, or something ridiculous like this. Majority of people would probably try and do something like that. And that's why I'm like, But this is.
He runs around like an idiot trying to cast magic spells, and he assumes that the alley
Hi,
thugs he runs into
A3H3.
are just low-level NPCs that he can one-shot with his S-tier combat
True,
strength.
masters.
He later ends up disappointed when he finds out he's just about as useless as he was in Japan.
True.
But like we saw, when Subaru realized he was powerless, he swallowed his pride and cried out for the guards when he needed help. That's why he was able to survive. Reinhardt appeared and saved the day because Subaru was humble enough to admit to his own vulnerability. In Ayamatsu, this doesn't happen. Subaru doesn't call out for someone to save him. Even when faced with danger, Subaru's too prideful to ask for help, and that very pride is what ends up corrupting him, leading him down a much darker path. This is Ayamatsu, the Pride If story.
So it can go one of two ways. Yeah, it can go one of two ways. Subaru's psychology, especially if he were to like lock himself in a moment of like not trying to give up and go through a cycle of pain and go through a cycle of destruction and inner whatever, right? He can literally like go into a full on destructo mode where he teams up and literally starts destroying everyone and everything. He can go into the mode where he becomes, i.e., the expert manipulator or pride, if you so will, itself, right? He could go into a road where he literally like kills everyone and everything because of his paratactic distortion, his love for Emilia, and be like, oh, here you go, my queen. Yeah, I'm not talking about Juicy Doocy. I'm talking about Emilia here. And like, here, I did all of this for you. And like, the empire's on fire and everyone's fucking dying and all of this stuff because of the fact that, like, number one, you're in an environment. Yeah, you're in an environment where, one, you're isolated, right? Let's talk about attachments in general. And this is why I'm talking about just this, if it's story is about it. Oh, I'll talk about, yeah, I'll talk about what I would do. But like in a scenario like this, right? Subaru specifically goes through, like, let's put it this way: you're isolated from all your friends, right? You don't have any way to communicate with your family member, completely isolated in every single regard. You met someone who you have a strong parataxic distortion for, i.e., an extremely pretty individual that you're putting all your hope on, your hope and dreams and whatever on, right? And you keep going through this cycle of death and whatnot. I can see that happening, where he keeps dying, but he keeps learning and he keeps advancing, even if it's one step at a time, i.e., his death only hurt the first 100,000 times, but after the 101,000, I just blink and it's done, and I keep coming. And I'll keep coming. You can kill me today, but tomorrow I'm going to get a step further. Tomorrow after that, I'm going to get a step further after that. One day, I'm going to have my knife so far in you, you're not going to be able to go ahead and, like, restart that. So it's going to go through yeah, I'll keep coming, exactly. It's going to go through a deep cycle like that if there's no one there to build up a support network. And it might even be to the fact where, hey, you know what? He starts reaching out and recruiting people that are, so you know how in the good version, he goes through and he picks up all of these wonderful people, like, not picked up, but because of his like attitude and whatnot, he was able to go and get like good support structures. He might get negative support structures that are like in the evil side in order to help him with this plan. No, masters. That's actually kind of tarnished and search for the Elden Ring. That's actually kind of what I find funny whenever I see like stuff like that. Oftentimes in situations like this, he is not. If I were to put myself in this psychology, I'd be like, I'm not the agent of change. No. Why would I want to change? I don't have to change. I'm doing this for you, Emilia. You wanted this, right, Emilia? Are you not happy for me? But I did this for you. I can totally see him going through a dark fucking route like this because, again, no support structure, no nothing, no ability to breathe. Fight or flight kicks in, and after a while, it goes from essentially, for following the like polyvagal theory, right? You go from paradorsal to dorsal to ventral system, right? And after a while, guess what? A lot of our hobbies and a lot of those things that we do, yeah, we normalize a lot of behavior. So I can see him quite literally normalizing his own behavior as stuff that he has to do, i.e., shown in what happened when he went to the thing and stepped in on the knighting ceremony and whatnot. Yeah, exactly, Eidolon. Like, his parents being the only support structure in all of this, yeah, it can get. I'm assuming that this is sort of, if I was the author, this is what I would do in a psychologically based reality, right? If I had to go ahead and give him a turn.
The story begins with a familiar scene. Elsa kills Subaru just like she did in the first episode. What's different is Subaru's reaction when he responds. Normally he'd be freaking out, right? Well, this time he calmly grabs a stick and starts drawing tally marks in the dirt. At this point, it becomes apparent that something went horribly wrong, causing Subaru to die over 80 times more than he was supposed to. Stuck in a seemingly endless loop, Subaru started losing his mind. He's no longer the dorky main character we know and love. He's desperate, and he'll do anything he can to escape this loop. But everything he tries results in failure. It's not fair. No matter what he does, he can't defeat Elsa. His lack of power has been tormenting him and breaking his mind in the process.
Why am I going so deep for this? I don't know. I question myself. I question myself. Why is he breaking his mind? I don't know. Maybe because his Maslow hierarchy of needs is not being met. Maybe because psychologically and psyche-wise, he's not even down here in the physiological needs, so he has no room for self-actualization or actually being able to think about things or being able to think about, like, oh, I don't know, establishing like healthy coping mechanisms and like healthy patterns or anything like that. No. His own health is being threatened. So his physiological needs are threatened, and we're expecting him to go ahead and like start rationalizing or start doing certain aspects. Not one of the bases is fulfilled at all. Security is not fulfilled. Safety is not fulfilled. Food, water, warmth, and rest. Are we even sure that he knows when he's going to wake up or like where he's going to rest or whatnot? Or he's just going to continuously die. So his basic needs are completely distorted. His psyche. This is a good representation of a person's psyche. He's not able to go ahead and self-actualize and think higher and make like higher movements and steps and whatnot. No. My dude has none of this at the moment. So it's believable that like he would like his psyche would break. Absolutely believable.
So once again, shortly after respawning, Subaru runs into the three alley thugs.
My thing is, after a while, if you live in that, no sleep because you don't need it. Well, my thing is, after a while, what a lot of people don't know, if you put yourself, oh, also I have it in the wrong one. Oops. If you put yourself in a dangerous situation, right? Hi, Horesmi, how you doing? If you put yourself in a very dangerous situation, like time after time after time after time after time, you normalize it. Even in a fight or flight state, yes, like, hi, yeah, how you doing, Horesmi? You made it. But like let's put this into a scenario. Growing up, I lived in the ghetto. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I lived in an environment where there were constant gunshots and so on and so forth. As a kid, yes, there were moments where I was anxious, but walking around, doing everything I had to do, I normalized that. At first, it was terrifying, right? When like I first lived there and whatnot, terrifying. What happens after a while? You normalize your environment, your situation, to a point where later on, when you start to reflect on it, you're like, you sometimes get nightmares about it. That wasn't normal. That wasn't hearing gunshots at 2 a.m. Hearing people argue and stuff going off. Oh, for me that was a normal Friday, Saturday night, but that's not normal routine, is it? So that's why I'm saying is sometimes through pain, even domestic violence situations, a lot of stuff, people normalize aspects of that until they're out of it and able to actually meet Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you can see someone like Subaru really take into effect that dark side that he needs to take in order for him to go ahead and survive in some way, shape, or form. It's going well, Reek Week. We're getting really close to our goal here. We're actually doing kind of fantastic. We're really, really close to the goal here. It's absolutely amazing, guys. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for donating. And it's a lot. We're doing fantastic. If you guys want to go ahead and donate, feel free. We have that donation thing. And in case you guys are watching this later on, we are doing a charity stream at the moment for the winter crisis in Ukraine, essentially. Because I've had a lot of friends over there. They're mentioning that it's pretty bad. And CARES and the organization that we're teaming up with for this stream. But I appreciate it, guys.
Start harassing him, but he's no longer afraid of them, because after respawning countless times, Subaru eventually memorized each of their fighting patterns, giving him enough of an advantage to
Exactly, Javel. Exactly. Are natural and unhealthy. And that's exactly why I'm saying it. Like in situations like this, you just get to a point where you can relive that, like be in that environment 100, 1,000 times and you start normalizing it. Oh yeah, I know that these people are here. I shouldn't walk around this area. I should head straight home the moment that the lights turn off outside, because that's when stuff starts going down. It's like, wait a minute, what?
To easily defeat them. But after knocking the three of them to the ground, instead of letting them escape, Subaru takes it way too far.
Thanks so much for the stretch.
He strangles them to death and then stomps on each of their necks until he feels their bones break under his shoes. And after killing them, he loots their bodies and takes their weapons for himself. And because he's repeated this loop so many times, he was able to do all of that in under a minute. So yeah, it's pretty clear already that something's very, very wrong with Subaru. Exiting the alleyway, Subaru runs into Amelia. She's currently chasing Felt, trying to get her insignia back. Subaru
I like that the closed captions writes it as Amelia.
knows that Amelia will eventually die if he doesn't do something about it, so he vows to her, "No matter what, I will save you." He's also still calling her Satella, as he hasn't learned her real name yet. But yeah, Subaru still determines to save her, despite knowing he's failed to do so a total of 87 times. His 87 attempts to stop Elsa have resulted in 87 failures. To Subaru, Elsa was an unbeatable opponent. He eventually realizes that no amount of trial and error could stop her, so he finally gives in and decides to ask the city guards for help, though at this point he's already a completely different person. Sitting on a rooftop, Subaru watches from above as Elsa slaughters the guards with ease, reaffirming Subaru's impression that Elsa is just invincible. But all of a sudden, Reinhardt shows up to save the day. This was actually the first time Subaru had ever.
So that's interesting, because wasn't at the beginning the reason why he didn't. So then, wouldn't that go against the very premise that he gave up his pride, but yet he had to go ahead and ask the guards for help? So for me, it shows it's not really pride. It just shows like a psyche break altogether. A person that's mental health has completely deteriorated to the point where he's willing to do a desperate man, fight or flight. You know, a man who's willing to do pretty much anything to get what he wants. He manipulated the guards to stumble upon Elsa. Oh, that sounds a little bit smarter. He was testing the yeah. But that's the thing, is if you're just desperate to succeed, it's like a wild animal, you know? Like you'll do anything to move things in a certain way, in a certain direction. Smarter, better, faster, stronger.
The Rein versus Elsa fight plays out pretty much the same as it did in the anime, except Reinhardt ends up destroying a section of the slums instead of the loot house. Meanwhile, Subaru just sits there watching in shock. After 87 loops of misery and failure, this red-haired knight randomly shows up and defeats Subaru's opponent effortlessly. I mean, come on, he didn't even unsheath his sword. Elsa was the seemingly unstoppable obstacle that Subaru couldn't overcome, and now suddenly she was dealt with. It didn't happen the way he expected it to, but the outcome was favorable for Subaru, so he gladly accepted it.
Hold on. Thanks so much for the $5 donation, Alex. Appreciate it. It means a lot, man. It means a lot. Appreciate it, mate.
But something changed. What Subaru does next is very odd and out of character. After Elsa escapes, Subaru gives the guards false information, misdirecting them elsewhere. He then finds.
So then he's gonna manipulate her in some way, shape, or form. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, so then I'm assuming that this is where he starts collecting them like fucking Pokemon. He goes around, so you start manipulating them to do your will, and you end up literally being like the one in charge, right? In some way, shape, or form. That's sort of what I'm getting off of a person in this state, in a state like this, because you're trying to go ahead, wrong if story, or something like that. I would assume murderize her in true. Actually,
Elsa
or that
severely wounded and offers
87 times Masha Tank. 87
to
times.
help her. He felt that she could prove useful to him in his ultimate goal of saving Amelia, so he tells her, "Look, I hate you, and one day I am going to kill you, but not now." Elsa then smiles and agrees to team up with Subaru, thus marking the end of his endless loop. Some time passes and Subaru wonders if Amelia ever got her insignia back. He then returns to the loot house to make sure, and to his surprise learns that Felt and Old Man Rom have been arrested for what they did to Amelia. Subaru then realizes that he's reached his goal. The mysterious silver-haired girl got her insignia back, and she's no longer in danger of being killed by Elsa, so now what? Without a goal in mind, Subaru isn't sure what to do next. Really, the only thing left on his mind was that girl with the silver hair. He had so many questions and so few answers. He even thought about killing himself and restarting just to get those answers, but he thought there might be an easier way. Staring at the loot house, Subaru says out loud, "Why don't you guys teach me?" And then turns around to face the several silhouettes standing behind him. All of their eyes looked insane and dead, and Subaru suspected that if he had a mirror, his eyes would appear the same.
I'm assuming his smell was like...
Real quick for any...
Yeah, I'm assuming his smell was just fucking terrific, wasn't it? Like, considering, like, you know, how they acted the first time, like, everything went through, I'm assuming he just smelled like to them. He was like, fucking yes, chef. He was fucking Gordon Ramsay to these people, like, all of them, yes, chef. I can see that, dude.
Anyone
I
that
can
doesn't
see that.
understand what just happened was the witch cult had actually noticed Subaru's behavior and wanted to recruit him. So they showed up at the loot house to meet him, and Subaru notices that they're just as insane as he is, so he decides to join them. 2 months later, after receiving news of the royal selection, Subaru learns Emilia's real name. He's known for a while that Satella wasn't really her name because at this point, Subaru's familiar with the myths and legends of the world, but regardless, Subaru's extremely overjoyed now that he knows Emilia's real name. In the midst of his celebration, he's interrupted by Betelgeuse, who Subaru's been living with for the past 2 months.
Oh god.
Betelgeuse is upset by Subaru's laziness, to which Subaru replies, "I'm just doing what the gospel tells me." Betelgeuse explains to Subaru that it's time for them to commence the ordeal and find out if Emilia is a suitable vessel to harbor the witch's soul. Subaru's eager to see Emilia again, so he agrees to participate, but then asks Betelgeuse if Emilia will die in this process, which Betelgeuse obviously confirms. This causes a dark smile to form on Subaru's face, and the scene transitions. 400 loops later, Subaru is standing with a sword plunged through Betelgeuse's heart. As he's dying, Subaru explains to him that it took a great amount of effort and planning to finally reach this outcome.
First off, 400 loops. Talk about, yeah, insanity is essentially repetition. If you want me to be honest with you, insanity is doing something repeatedly in some way, shape, or form, right? I've had a bad roommate, but I don't think it could compare to Betelgeuse. True. Also, do you think that this world has any form of deodorant? I'm genuinely curious on that one, now that Masters brought it up. Doing the exact same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's a lot of loops. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm like,
He had to form a contract with a minor spirit so he couldn't be possessed, and he had to hire Elsa to murder all of the fingers. But because this took him so long to accomplish, Subaru actually ended up spending more time with Betelgeuse than any other character, to the point that he actually started to consider him a friend. But despite that, he couldn't allow anyone to harm Emilia, and that's exactly what he tells Betelgeuse, right before demolishing his best friend's brain with a sword. Subaru then meets in private with Roswaal and lets the Emilia camp take the credit for killing Betelgeuse, which would increase Emilia's popularity and thus her likelihood of winning the royal selection. As Subaru's goal satisfies Roswaal's agenda as well, the two of them agree to continue working together. Subaru will do business in the shadows while Roswaal will handle the more public affairs. A couple days after the royal selection begins, history rewrites itself so that there were always 4 candidates rather than 5. The Krush camp on its own was no match for the White Whale, resulting in Krush's existence being erased from the memory of the world, leaving Subaru the only one left who can remember her. This actually starts to annoy Subaru. He'll bring up her name in a conversation by accident, and people will give him weird looks and stuff, and it kind of causes some awkward situations. What I'm getting at here is Subaru doesn't care at all that Krush died. Her death to Subaru is nothing more of an example of what not to do. Actually, scratch that. Her death is an asset to Subaru.
well, no wonder y'all think she's the fucking best girl.
Trapped in a metal prison in the back of
11:25.
Subaru's cave, Felix sits alone, muttering questions to himself like a broken doll. Subaru concludes that Krush must have been a major part of Felix's life. So when she got erased from history, Felix's mind couldn't account for everything and he went completely insane. But Felix could prove very useful to Subaru, so he wants to try and reprogram his mind, basically making him a slave. As Felix sits there crying and muttering to himself, Subaru leans in and says to him, "This time, I definitely won't let you kill yourself."
Yeah, which again, I think that's I think that's the main thing that I'm getting at is even modern day Subaru season 1. This is a stream, charity subathon. Absolutely. Well, not a subathon. This is directly a charity stream. There's a way to. I'll show everyone how to go ahead and donate in a bit. But I was gonna say, for me, this exemplifies the reason why he goes through like the parataxic distortion with Emilia, and why like in season 1 I always stayed out there. Hey, this is kind of toxic. This is kind of not okay. Like if you genuinely take a step back and you look at Subaru, he's a flawed character, an excellent character, but like in a person, you wouldn't want that in a person,
This next transition is pretty graphic, but I think what Subaru does to Felix is without a doubt the
12:54, got it. All right. 12:53. All right.
At least they're only killing bad guys, right? Fast forward a bit, and Julius is now dying on the floor of a bar after being betrayed by someone he trusted. Subaru starts delivering an arrogant monologue to Julius, but Julius doesn't really care about Subaru. In this moment, Julius's eyes are focused on the person standing next to Subaru, the person Subaru ordered to kill him. "Did I do well, Subaru-sama?" Subaru gives Felix a head pat and praises him for killing Julius so obediently. The door opens and someone walks in with a mop. It's then revealed that because Otto couldn't pay off his financial debts, he's now being forced to help Subaru clean up his messes.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, since he saw Reinhardt, he went through and, like, found, like, another fucking swordsman or another fucking magician that can rival him in some way, shape, or form. I can totally see, or, like, find a way to chain him up or something, because, as you guys always state, Reinhardt is a fucking walking nuclear tank, essentially.
As time went on, Subaru amassed a group of accomplices who helped him achieve many of his goals. He eventually eliminated each one of the Sin Archbishops, passing along the credit of their defeat to the Emilia camp. But that still wasn't enough to win Emilia the throne. To guarantee her victory, Subaru would need to become the ultimate villain, and then allow Emilia to defeat him.
Yeah, so you literally attack the capital, get everyone to like see you as the main villain, and then have Emilia kill you, and congratulations, game.
Making her the ultimate hero. To
what up, bro?
accomplish
How you
this,
doing,
Subaru
brother?
would first need to eliminate every other villain to assure that he was the ultimate
one. Yeah.
Then he would need to eliminate every other hero to make sure that Emilia was the ultimate one. So Subaru continued down his path of murdering innocents and committing atrocities, and slowly whittled away at the other candidates, the witch cult, and anything else that stood in Emilia's way. This continued until there was only
Which is my thing, my number one thing. This is not just for Subaru, but for anyone out there. Hey, if you have a friend who straight up is like, I can only live with my partner. My partner is the only person that I can live with. Yeah, no, they're wonderful. And like so on and so forth. Hey, honestly, be there for them. Try and get them to expand their social circle, so on and so forth. Because people can get into cycles, not like to this extent, but still to an extent where they will damage everyone and everything around them in ways, even if it's just hope or a really, really bad crush, or when someone else is their only reason for existing. Exactly.
one person remaining
it's a lot of work
for Subaru to kill. The capital is on fire. Subaru is in tremendous...
Okay, now hold on. Before y'all come at me saying fucking wizard or anything. This is all psychologically based. Everything that I'm talking about is just because of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and specifically because I know some people like to come through. Some people really like to come through for whatever reason. They're always like, I should have read the light novels. Nah, man, I don't have time for it. I really don't have time for anything like that. And this, which I tend to do for every anime out there, you put a character, any good therapist, any therapist doing anything like anime related or whatnot should always be bringing this up. Because this is the key structure to how any character works. A good therapist is actually able to go ahead and do this in their head. You put any character in the middle, you find out sort of how all of this starts interplaying with one another, how time starts affecting everything in between, and how they start affecting everything going out. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the number one thing to go into, followed by Bronfenbrenner, followed by Kohlberg's moral development theory, and then you can go into Piaget with developmental cycles or developmental milestones for him. And then you can also go into a little bit of like, oh, what is for example, at the moment, if we were to do Sternberg's love triangle, right, for Subaru, I'll bring it up. Realistically, what is he doing? He's just infatuated. He is just infatuated. This is all he is at the moment. It's just infatuation, right? That is what parataxic distortions are. Infatuations. To the point where they cannot do anything wrong because you're so passionate. You're so passionate about them. They're beautiful. They're so beautiful. Like, no matter what they do, even the fact that, like, they messed up, oh, no, that just adds to their whatever, right? Passion can be passion in many different ways, shapes, or forms. Intimacy can be, like, emotional intimacy, so on and so forth. But a lot of people fall into this weird, either fatuous love, where they're committed to that one person and they're passionate about it, or they're just completely passionate. So that's exactly what I'm going at here. Guys, even when making friendships. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you even when making friendships, even when making friends with benefits, whatever, find out where are you truly really. And consummate love is supposedly like the ideal love, but not everyone seeks that out. For some people, quite literally, commitment is enough to make their love needs or whatever. But for Subaru, he's fatuated. He's fatuated. He has fatuous love. You put that into play with all of this, and you start getting a character who will literally burn the world just to see you succeed. And in most aspects, some people would think, oh, that's so romantic. For me, it's like, that's terrifying, because where are your goals? What's your ambitions? Where do you want to see yourself succeed? And if you don't have plans for yourself, red flag.
His pain. Around him, buildings collapse. Children and parents cry out for
exactly,
their families.
Reek.
All the while, the inferno grows larger and larger.
Don't live for
Welcome
someone else,
to
yet.
Subaru's newest save point. To get here, it took him over 10,000 loops. Every horrible thing he did was necessary to bring him to this very point. Reinhardt had nothing to say to Subaru. Up until this point, Reinhardt had remained calm in every situation, no matter what he was faced with. But now, his eyes were glaring with hatred, an emotion Subaru didn't think he could possibly show. Subaru knows at this point that he can't kill Reinhardt, so the closest he can come is to kill his name and kill everything he stands for. Subaru mocks him, saying, "You're the Sword Saint, the sword of the kingdom. You're the knight who protects the kingdom of Lagunica, so tell me, did you even protect the kingdom at all?" As he says this, it becomes clear that the fire isn't just burning the capital. In fact, the entire territory of Lagunica is engulfed in flame.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn, way to go.
Subaru explains to Reinhardt that he's tried to kill him tens, hundreds, and thousands of times. He's studied him, researched him, and tested every idea he could possibly think of. He's gone through every conceivable form of trial and error to kill Reinhardt, and nothing worked. He sacrificed Meili and Elsa, Roswaal, Otto, the Witch Cult, the Archbishops, and he committed every conceivable crime in existence, but he still couldn't kill Reinhardt. So the only thing left in his power to do was to kill Reinhardt's name, kill everything he stands for as a hero. Because if a hero can't save anything, then they aren't a hero anymore. As Subaru explains this to him, Reinhardt appears visibly shaken. Subaru's voice starts trembling, laced with sobs. The last time Subaru shed tears was his very first day in this world. He never cried during any of his horrific acts, yet here he is, crying over Reinhardt's power of all things. Back then, Subaru was jealous of Reinhardt. After helplessly dying to Elsa 87 times in a row, Subaru watched as Reinhardt just showed up randomly and defeated her with one swing of his sword. Subaru aspired to have that power so much, he began to hate it. And now, Subaru will taste that power firsthand because Reinhardt is going to kill him. Reinhardt doesn't reach for his sword. Subaru's so weak that it wouldn't even be necessary. Reinhardt prepares to kill Subaru with his bare hands, or perhaps his foot would be more necessary. But before he can do so, Elsa, still alive, jumps out of nowhere and slashes her blade at Reinhardt, who blocks the attack with his hand, shattering the knife to pieces. Subaru was surprised Elsa was still alive, but there's no time to waste. While Reinhardt's preoccupied with Elsa, Subaru gets up and starts running down the hill. "That's enough," Subaru hears. "That's enough, villain." Subaru looks at the source of the voice and says her name, Emilia. He starts trying to talk to her, but Puck steps in, explaining that nothing he says should be taken seriously, but Subaru persists anyway. "Everything I'm about to tell you is a crazy person rambling," Subaru says as he unzips his tracksuit. Yes, this whole time, Subaru had kept his tracksuit sealed away for this very occasion. He wanted to wear it for his reunion with Emilia, and
I read that so wrong. I thought he had kept his tracksuit sealed. I thought it was like all the way up, and I was about to say, man, can you imagine the fucking moisture coming out of that? Like, my dude just fucking opens it and it's just like, shh. Like, you could just like get a whiff at that, and you're like, oh, bro. I read that so wrong. I'm so glad. Sweaty ass boy, dude. Like thousands and thousands of loops. Oh, man. All right.
Anyway, Subaru continues. "I'm the one who burnt down the country. Nobody could stop me from doing this. Not the guards, knights,
You're a
or the
walking
heroes.
mind
The
move.
Sword Saint hasn't stopped
The
me,
third
and the
is,
dragon
no.
hasn't either. I'm the one who brought the flames of demise that drove this nation to destruction, and nobody can stop me. Except for you. Kill me, and you'll become the hero that saved the world.
Yeah,
None of the other candidates could ever achieve anything to top this. Everything I did was to make you the ruler." Emilia blocks her ears, trying to keep Subaru's words out. A tear falls down her cheek, and Subaru feels a shock in his chest. Seeing Emilia cry made Subaru feel guilty. But Subaru knew it would happen. From the very beginning, Subaru knew he would make Emilia cry. He knew his actions would make her cry, yet he did them anyway.
True.
"Watch me, Emilia. See me, detest me, and remember me," Subaru says as he starts laughing like a maniac. Emilia, her voice trembling, asks him,
Who are you?
Who in
I like how it's like, yeah, who are you? I maybe met you once, dude, but like, who are you? When you go to the bar and you see a cute girl and you think like you make your whole world about her, then you come back, she's like, who? Oh, dude, and oh, yeah, that's what I was like, dude, she doesn't even know your fucking name. Like, you good? Oh, that's so sad. It's so funny, dude.
in the world are you? Subaru slowly approaches her with his arms open wide. "My name is Natsuki Subaru." Natsuki Subaru. Emilia starts repeating his name, but Subaru wasn't finished with his sentence yet. "Natsuki Subaru, Sin Archbishop of Pride," he says, and with that, he sprints as fast as he can towards Emilia, forcing her to shoot a spear of ice through his chest. Staring down at Subaru's dying body, Emilia repeats the same question over and over.
Why?
Subaru, with his final breath, answers her, "I love you." Subaru once again returns to the dark world
Why?
he goes every time he dies. Usually he gets sent out of this place back into the world, but now something's different. This time, he's satisfied. He sacrificed everything, including himself, to give Emilia a better future. That was his goal, and he reached it. But there's another presence here with him. Someone else in this dark world greets him with a whisper. It was a comforting whisper with kindness and love in its voice. He'd never seen this presence before, but it was oddly familiar. Subaru then accepts that his existence deviates from the spiral of death and welcomes the strange presence. The chapter ends with the words, "Even if you refuse me, I will never forget you." And that's how the Pride route ends. Subaru dies one final death after accomplishing his goal. He actually did it. He got the happy ending he was looking for. A good ending, you could say. Because he was satisfied with his life, Satella released her grasp on him, taking away his return by death and finally allowing him to rest for all of eternity. So why did Subaru go crazy? Once again, like I said in the beginning, all of this was the result of a very minor ideological mistake at the very start of the story.
I would kind of disagree with that. I would just point to this. Ideological mistake. I would just point to this triangle as the reason why he started fucking up. Yeah. The reason it's not even ideologies can only take you so far, and to idealize and to start going into deep ideological or philosophical esteems, you'd have to be at self-actualization to go into certain things like that. But when you don't have your esteems, your belonging, your love needs, your security, safety, your physiological needs, then what do you think separates the man was in fight or fight, yeah, for 10,000 loops, yeah. So what do I think separates Pride Subaru from the main story Subaru? One major thing, if we're gonna go into this. What did he okay, so he had his, there was a moment, I think I have to rewatch it. There's a moment, because as I said, I only watched the fucking anime, in episode 1 or 2, right, where you can see him thinking in that moment, right, because all of this is shaky. Yeah, Masters, the eyes, you can see, first off, the eyes is extremely important. How the way that like they animated the eyes, fucking beautiful details. But also, when a person takes time to think, right, and say that he valued in that situation, whatever his thought process might have been, going for his support system rather than, just going into immediate fight or flight, that's separated everything. Going to, even though it's a parataxic distortion and it's a bad one at that, and I'm not promoting it, he went for trying to build a support system and even trying to go ahead and understand that, i.e., like, hey, I got to go ahead and like ask for help if I want to go ahead and be there for this person, as opposed to this route where it's, I have to go ahead and destroy everyone because this is not being met so that I can be there for another person. Big difference. I want to be there for another person, so I have to ask for help. I have to destroy everyone in my path to be there for another person. Two different thoughts, and both of them follow this pattern, right? Because what is he aiming for in one? Belongingness and love needs, right? What is he doing for the other? He's down here. He's in fight or flight. You don't have to meet every need of the triangle to be able to self-actualize, right? You only need little bits and pieces. But he met a parataxic distortion here. And in this aspect, in the main Subaru, his main thing wasn't focusing on like, oh, what do I have to do for this? Like, it was like, hey, I like Emilia. I like this relationship. I want to grow through this, and I have to, in order for this to grow and to go, have to put aside, whatever feelings I may have, ask for help to grow. Because asking for help, asking for others is sort of what like is able to go ahead and like build his needs. And the other one, he didn't have this. He kept dying and 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 dying. And there's also a main thing, and this is an example, and it's actually you guys can look this up yourselves in psychology. It's called learned helplessness. They did a couple studies in a classroom where they gave two different people, or two different groups in that classroom, like test A and test B. Test A, like, there was a bunch of anagrams that you had to solve. Test B's anagrams were impossible to solve anagrams. They were told that it was the exact same test. What started going down, what started happening was test B, right, would look at, like, except for the last one. The last one was something that they were able to go ahead and, like, it was an easy one that anyone could answer. But because they've gotten so many wrong, and it kept saying the ones from test A, get the answer right, get the answer right, get the answer right. You know what happened with the final one? With the easy one that's supposed to be so easy anyone can solve? They couldn't. They couldn't. Not because they're not smart. No, victim mentality is different. Learned helplessness is when you're put in an environment where. Also, have a good night, FBI Cone. Appreciate you. Yeah. So basically, in the Pride loop, he decided that Emilia was more important than the relationship with Emilia. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. A person is more important than the relationship that you have with them, i.e., who are you, right? And that's exactly what she asked him. Who are you? She doesn't even fucking remember him, as opposed to the other one. But learned helplessness, y'all can look at hundreds of examples of that, and that's often why, like, I mean, isn't pride not asking for help the first domino piece and all of that? So again, Sundai, that doesn't necessarily have to be because of pride. That can be because of learned helplessness. If I put you in an environment, again, let me go ahead and throw you out there where you don't you don't fit in, you don't have any attachments to anyone there. People look at you weird, so on and so forth. Are you more or less likely to seek for help? Yeah, Subaru is pretty prideful in the main story. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like in this, like this story is like more hitting on like the learned helplessness aspect of things, but yet like latching on to Emilia as the parataxic figure rather than the relationship with Emilia, and that's the key that Eidolon was hitting on. Because that's huge. That's huge. Usually, pride and sense have some kind of cause rather than them being the cause themselves. It's mistaking causation and correlation. Absolutely, absolutely. But like the main reason that I'm getting at this dude is he forked very early, so he was in the same conditions in terms of needed. ReZero learned helplessness if honestly. But in a scenario like that, hey, if you're in the learned helplessness scenario and you're in fight or flight, 1,000 loops, 100 loops, 10 loops, everyone has a different tolerance. You can you can break in a really, really, really bad way. Put all of this together, all of the different things that we've talked about here. You know, you have learned helplessness. All of a sudden, who can you go for? No one but yourself. Can you truly make connections with others? No, unless you're able to go to manipulate and control them. If you're able to go to manipulate and control them, you can start taking care of your local religious organization, and you can grow to be a part of that religious hierarchy, which is going to start influencing the media and so on and so forth. So, what can you go ahead and do from all of that? You can start influencing the neighborhood and the immediate environments of the community and government agencies slash educational workplaces there, which starts influencing the overall chronosphere of everything. So if we look at this and we literally put Subaru right in the middle with the learned helplessness aspect, where he's gone through moments of his Maslow's hierarchy of needs not being met. He's already angry. He's doing the best that he can. He has to manipulate people. That's his only way of survival. What does he start to do? If you look at this, he's not going to form a healthy peer group. He's going to form a toxic, manipulative peer group that's going to start affecting all of this. And if you just follow these, like all these lines through, you get the character that you see now. And same thing. Let's put Subaru in here. Let's say that Subaru ran away with Rem, right? Episode 18. What happens? More than likely, boom, Subaru runs away with Rem. Episode 18. Um, okay, Subaru's will need to still get over heartaches and moments of memories of Emilia, and Rem has to come into the realization that, hey, you know what, you are not going to be able to go out and replace whatever part Emilia has in his heart. That's a big thing, right? Two, can Subaru put up the work, right, in a situation like that? Like, can he speak? Would he be like viable in a community like that? We're looking at over here, media, peer groups, all of this. His peer group would probably just be his wife. He'd probably be in like a rundown neighborhood, right? Or like some place they'd probably be in like stalls or something. Rem would probably be the one that's working because she's like probably the most educated one, right? She can work for food and shelter, yeah. Meanwhile, he's gonna have to be learning or trying to go ahead and do something in order to go ahead and influence that environment. Um, it's going to be a rather like peaceful life in that regard, right? Where they're more than likely going to grow old, but is he going to feel and like, with his kids or her kids all around and see if like, and have him pass away or something. Put that into that perspective. We have Subaru, mainline Subaru, who goes through, you put Rem, you see the psychologically how he is. And the only thing that you can start seeing is like, the influences that starts happening around. Is it Kafumi? I just completely went off of the psychology of the characters at that point in time on episode 18. If I were to take Subaru from if I were to take Subaru from season 2 episode 4 after the revelation with his parents and he ran away with Rem, what would you have, right? Or yeah, he ran away with Rem for whatever reason. Rem woke up and they're like, hey, let's run away together. You'd have a healthier version of Subaru who actually is more attentive to her. Granted, you'd probably still be attentive to her, but you'd probably have a Subaru who's more proactive, more able to go ahead and do things rather than the other way. If you had a Subaru who, I'm just throwing them in here just so that you guys see that like all of this is quite literally just based off of psychology. I don't even gotta fucking guess some of these things. I'm just following this and this. You have a Subaru who makes a deal with Echidna, right? Yeah, you have a someone that made a deal with Echidna. What do you have? You have a situation where she's more than likely gonna manipulate him, right? Because she's a manipulator. He's in a state of like constant survival, trying to get whatever perfect ending he might want or ending he might want. So she might fucking literally run him 1,000 times just until she sees like every possible situation. I can totally see that happening. Or he might start losing his like mindset because of that. Because so what peer group does he have? Oh, you mean what peer group do they have? Right? How does this affect religiosity, their hierarchy there, or so on and so forth? That's all you got to start doing, dude. You plug in a character, you start thinking about it, you like go as deep as you can with their temperament, whatnot, at any point in time, and you influence it out. This is what a good therapist does with any character, and it should be able to go ahead and show it. You know, should be able to go ahead and like show the systems at work, and usually like we're taught to go ahead and do it in our heads as quickly as possible. But I hope that you guys can understand sort of where this is coming from. I think that was a beautiful way of telling that story, though. I actually really like it in this video.
Instead of swallowing his pride and yelling for the guards in the alleyway, Subaru didn't want to admit he needed help, so he didn't get any. This caused him to die almost 100 times more than he was supposed to, which completely broke his mind in the process and caused him to hate Reinhardt for being so overpowered. Deep down, his ultimate goal of saving Emilia didn't change, but his methods of achieving it certainly did.
I don't think he. It's a weird juxtaposition with that, right? Which is like hating Reinhardt. Is envy a good word for that, or jealousy? Rudy has manipulated someone and everyone hates him. Echidna manipulates someone. Echidna manipulates everyone and everyone loves her. I don't think that's fair. Eidolon
did. In Ayamatsu, Subaru actually takes a more Roswaal-esque approach to his philosophy on life. Like Roswaal, Subaru values one thing and one thing only. He was willing to sacrifice everything else just to reach his idea of a perfect ending for Emilia. What's ironic is that Emilia never asked for any of this, nor was she happy with the actual result. The whole thing was all in Subaru's head, and it was his pride that kept him from giving Emilia what she truly wanted. Subaru forced his pride-influenced idea of a perfect ending on Emilia without any consideration as to what she wanted.
So again, he focused on Emilia, not the relationship with Emilia. That's the difference there.
He was
That's why an attachment psychologist looks at this, dude. An attachment psychologist looks at the relationships, not just the individuals, not just a narrative that like a person tells. You can tell a narrative and spin it 1,000 ways, baby, but the way that you treat others, your relationship with others, and your relationship with yourself. That's sort of what's huge, you know?
Pretending to be doing everything for Emilia, but in reality, it was for himself. And here's the crazy thing about it. Subaru understood that the entire time. Yeah. He knew what he was doing was wrong, yet he did it anyway. Anyone that continues to do the wrong thing, whilst knowing it's wrong, must certainly be consumed by their own pride.
Hold on, let's back that up.
Was wrong, yet he did it anyway. Anyone that continues to do the wrong thing, whilst knowing it's wrong, must.
Not necessarily. Anyone that continues to do the wrong thing while knowing that it's wrong is sort of like So let me put it this way. Sociologically speaking and culturally speaking, yeah, that's exactly what I was going for, Masters. Sociologically speaking and culturally speaking, you might be forced to do some things that other people might look at and be like, virtually you're not doing the right or wrong thing or whatnot. Pride can also be you thinking you are right, ignoring others' counsels. Absolutely, absolutely. But in a scenario like this, it's just a definition of someone that's, going through a psyche break, through some sort of mental health issues. If we're going to be 100% correct with that, right? Because socially or culturally, there are some religious or cultural aspects out there that if others looked at, they might look at you and be like, that's wrong, that's prideful, you're not changing your ways, so on and so forth. But to them, that's sort of what they do. That is that they do these actions because to them it is the way that they like cope with the world. It is the way that they see the world. They don't care about your perspective of good or bad virtues. It is just what they do to survive. I.e., let's go back into tribalism, right? Like tribal cults. In some situations they will kill, eat people, so on and so forth. For us, we can be like, oh, you're not changing your ways into modernity, or what we see as right is you being prideful and wrong. But to them, they don't know what you're talking about. They only exist in that fight or flight scenario. Pride is not something that they can rationalize when they don't know when they're going to get their next food. They don't know, so on and so forth, and they can't. For them, that's normal. He saw Amelia as the only important thing, so anything aiding her must be morally correct. Or either you can see your willpower of desire of being above any sense of right is a sign of pride. Oof, Horazmi. Oof, we gotta fight them.
Certainly be consumed by their own pride.
That's not cool.
But yeah, the whole concept of sacrificing everything for the one thing you care about probably played a pretty big role in Roswaal's friendship with Subaru.
Oh, yeah.
It was also fascinating to see what happened to the other characters, even the minor ones. As a result of Subaru being selfish, the fate of everyone else was altered as well. Krusch and Wilhelm died, Old Man Rom and Felt got arrested, Otto became a debt slave, Felix became an actual slave, etc, etc. Overall, I'd say this is probably my third or fourth favorite If story, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. The others were just really, really good as well. I thought this was a very interesting story, and I'm really impressed by how realistic it was. To me, it doesn't feel like a spin-off or a fanfic or anything of the sort. It genuinely feels like the main story gone wrong. It seems very possible that this is how ReZero could have ended up had Subaru not passed the test of virtue, and that's what I like about these If stories. They provide us with a lot of details we wouldn't get otherwise, and they really expand on both the characters and the world. I think the most important detail from this story was that Subaru actually died. In this story,
also, I don't even know why I'm watching it full screen. Hold on.
Satella
You gotta remind
released
me,
Subaru
guys.
from the restrictions of Return by Death. I'd love to hear some speculation as to why that happened in the comments section. Did Satella really let him die because he was satisfied, or did she maybe just give up on him? Let me know what you guys think about that, as well as the story overall. What do you guys think about evil Subaru? If you enjoyed this video,
But was he evil? I think that's sort of where I guess a philosopher can go ahead and argue that. I think we can throw Punyesh on that. You're like, what is evil, right? Not aligning with the wills of certain individuals. Was he desperate? We can argue that. The original video wasn't crushed. You probably can watch it. Oh.
remember to drop a like and definitely subscribe if you like this kind of ReZero content. As always, I hope you've all
So guys, make sure that you guys go ahead and follow Echidna, absolutely incredible creator. And through this, like, my number one thing is he did an incredible way of like going through all of this. I just find it interesting because took the only road that made sense to him. Yeah. And oftentimes, even in mental health, substance users and whatnot, oftentimes they only they fall into a similar habit where you have to talk about relapse, or you have to talk about different options that are out there. Even individuals that are court mandated and that they don't want, for them, this is the way that they do stuff, and this is the way that life is, and so on and so forth. And I think that's sort of what makes it huge. If you take into consideration different aspects that people follow through on habits that they're not supposed to be doing, or situations that they're not supposed to be doing, you can sort of understand why this is coming from.